का डिब्बा गोल करना जरूरी है।
बिहार हो
Bihar Battleground, locked and loaded. Campaign ends.
आदमी में कितना दम होता है वो छाती के साइज से नहीं पता लगता।
Countdown to voting begins. Full fire in the final lap.
आरजेडी और कांग्रेस इनकी डिक्शनरी में कट्टा, क्रूरता, कटुता और करप्शन ऐसे ही शब्द भरे पड़े हैं।
आने वाला चुनाव बिहार को जंगल राज से मुक्ति दिलाने का चुनाव।
Blazing barbs and personal wars.
क्या बोला बच्चा कि तेजस्वी यादव को ऐसा सबक सिखाएंगे कि अगला चुनाव लड़ेगा कि नहीं लड़ेगा वो सोचना पड़ेगा उसको। ए अमित शाह जी, ये बिहार हो बिहार।
भीड़ से कहना नरेंद्र मोदी जी हम आपको चुनाव जितवा देंगे, आप 2-3 योगा के आसन कर दो स्टेज पे, योगा के आसन कर देंगे।
What are the X factors?
नीतीश कुमार को रखना है कि हटाना है?
The big pre-poll deep dive. You're watching Battleground Bihar with Rahul Kanwal.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching NDTV Battleground Bihar. I'm Rahul Kanwal. The state that loves its politics more than any other state in the country goes to polls on the 6th and the 11th of November. Campaigning for the first phase of elections in Bihar has ended, and over the next 2 hours, the NDTV election team will try and give you a sense of what's happening on the ground in this deeply contested election. I'll be joined by some of the country's top poll pundits, Psephologists, as we try and give you a data lens on how the election stands and the X factors that will determine who wins on the 14th of November. I'll kickstart this broadcast by taking you through some of the most important factors that will determine the end electoral outcome, and then over the next several minutes we will try and understand the significance of each of these factors one by one, and we'll try and put some numbers to it, because one of the big factors that I found while we were traveling through Bihar over the last several days was the uncertainty around the impact that Prashant Kishor and his Swaraj party will have on the electoral outcome. PK has built a huge amount of enthusiasm digitally and on social, but what extent will that translate into votes come polling day? That's the critical question. I have some framework. We'll try and give you a lens of how to understand at what level of votes does the JSP start converting its vote share into seats. This is really the number one X factor. Otherwise, Bihar looks pretty settled. It looks like a normal election. The impact that PK has is the one X factor that really is the joker in the pack, as it were. The second, of course, is the perception around Nitish Kumar's health. He's been ailing. All kinds of stories have been doing the rounds in the political corridors of Bihar. Do people want to trust Sushasan Babu for another term in power? Or are they going to be apprehensive? Because he's been in power in one form or shape or the other for 2 decades now. A level of anti-incumbency is only inevitable. Do people want change? Do they want to look beyond the Nitish era? Or would they like to give Nitish Kumar another chance? Is his health a major cause of concern for the NDA, or could it actually generate sympathy where voters end up thinking, this guy has been running our state for the last 2 decades, let's give him one final chance? That's another X factor we'll be looking at in just a moment from now. Then, of course, there are the migrant voters, and we've seen the opposition, whether it's a Tejasvi Yadav or it is a Prashant Kishor, take up the issue of migrant voters in a big way. Why do migrants from Bihar need to travel to Gujarat, Maharashtra, Delhi, the southern states, and find employment there? They've come back for the Chhat Puja. Many of them are staying back to vote. Now, this is a PK and Tejaswi believe that this is a community of voters that is not bound by typical caste hierarchies and rigidities, because they've seen the world outside, they've come back. Will they vote as the youth vote, as a community of migrant workers, or will they be bound by more traditional caste hierarchies? This, again, another X factor we will try and decode over the next few minutes. Then there is the question about Nari Shakti. Women have been outvoting men in favor of the Janata Dal United. The spectre of Jungle Raj haunts them like it does in very few other states. They've been rooting for Nitish Kumar. He gave them the cycle to start with, education, most recently 10,000 rupees going directly into the bank accounts of women voters. Will they be taken in by the 10,000 rupees they've got, by the track record of Nitish Kumar, the fear of Jungle Raj if the RJD comes back? Will Nari Shakti once again push Nitish across the finishing line? And then after this, one thing to look at is the jobs challenge, because you've got two different approaches. You've got the RJD, where you've got Tejaswi Yadav promising one job per household across the state of Bihar. It's a very expensive promise, almost 4 times the current state budget of the state of Bihar. On the other hand, you've got the NDA, which promises 1 crore rozgar, employment in some form or shape. Not necessarily a government job, but in some form or shape, they're promising an employment, not unemployment or underemployment, joblessness, a critical issue for the young voter. How do voters perceive the promises being made by different organizations, by different parties, and which side will they root for? Who can solve the jobs challenge? Another critical question in the battlefield of Bihar, and we'll take a look at that in a moment. Then, of course, there's the issue that Rahul Gandhi took up in a big way, SIR deletion. In just a short while, I'll actually take you through the numbers on how many votes have been deleted on an average in different regions of Bihar, and then we'll see what the victory margin in the last elections was to try and determine whether the deletion of these votes during the SIR exercise by itself can change the electoral outcome on the 14th. The opposition thinks it's a big issue. Rahul Gandhi took out almost a 3-week vote chori yatra, now vote adhikar yatra. He made that a big issue. Does it resonate on the ground? Our pundits will talk about it, our editors and reporters on the ground will talk about it, and we'll try and look at the impact of SIR deletion. What we're going to do also is look at the larger question, because this is in some ways an interlude to a new generation taking over in Bihar politics. You've had the era over the past 3 decades of Lalu and Nitish Kumar. Now, this is just the last election before a new era begins. That era could be defined by Tejaswi Yadav. That era could be defined by Chirag Paswan. That era could be defined by Prashant Kishor. Maybe someone from the BJP. Many claimants in the ring there. No one clear face though. Who could that claimant be? What's the next cast of characters that will determine the future of Bihar politics? This election will give us some clues about what happens in a multi-decadal fashion when it comes to determining who runs Bihar, not just for this election, but for many years into the future. Who are the next Lalu and Nitish that will determine what happens here? So those are the critical issues we'll be looking at. It gives you a broad sense of the issues that are at play on the ground. As I said, some of the top psephologists, poll pundits, our editors and reporters on the ground will be joining us. But I want to take you through all that was said in the heat and dust of the Bihar election on the last day of campaigning. Let's get a sense of the barbs that were thrown, the taunts, the attacks, the counter-attacks, and then we'll go one by one into each of these X factors and try and give you a sense which will help you determine the impact all these X factors could have on the 6th, the 11th, and most importantly, on the 14th of November.
आरजेडी और कांग्रेस की डिक्शनरी में क्या शब्द है, क्या भावनाएं भरी पड़ी है, क्या आदतें जुड़ी हुई है? आरजेडी और कांग्रेस, इनकी डिक्शनरी में कट्टा, क्रूरता, कटुता, कुसंस्कार, कुशासन और करप्शन ऐसे ही शब्द भरे पड़े हैं।
बिहार को प्रगति के रास्ते पर ले जाने का चुनाव है। बिहार से घुसपैठिए को निकालने का चुनाव। ये चुनाव लालू राज फिर से न आए, जंगल राज फिर से न आए, इसके लिए का चुनाव है
कि कानून सबके लिए एक बराबर है और एक बराबर होना भी चाहिए। आपने स्वास्थ्य की चिंताओं को जाहिर करते हुए आप बाहर हैं, ऐसे में कभी आप परिवार के साथ घूमने निकल जाते हैं, कुछ तस्वीरें आपकी खेलते कूदते दिख जाती है लोगों के साथ, प्रचार में आप जा रहे हैं, नामांकन में आप जा रहे हैं।
नरेंद्र मोदी जी आपको भाषण देते हैं, आते हैं, वायदे करते हैं, चुनाव के दिन तक जो भी आप कहते हो कर देंगे, और चुनाव के बाद नरेंद्र मोदी ना बिहार आएंगे, ना आपकी बात सुनेंगे, चले जाएंगे। मैं तो कहता हूं अगली बार जो भी करवाना है करवा लो। जैसे मीटिंग में आते हैं वो आप भीड़ से कहना, नरेंद्र मोदी जी ये सीट हम आपको जिता देंगे, जरा स्टेज पे डांस कर लो, और नरेंद्र मोदी डांस कर लेंगे। या फिर कहना उनसे, नरेंद्र मोदी जी हम आपको चुनाव जितवा देंगे, आप 2-3 योगा के आसन कर दो स्टेज पे, योगा के आसन कर देंगे।
अब मोदी जी वोट लेकर के चल जाते हैं, चुनाव में फिर आते हैं और खाली क्या बोलते हैं, जंगल राज, जंगल राज। यार कौन ऐसा दिन है जब मुजफ्फरपुर में हत्या बलात्कार नहीं हो रहा, बताइए तो कौन ऐसा दिन नहीं है? प्रधानमंत्री को नजर नहीं ना आएगा? जो गरीब की बात करता हो उसको कहते हैं जंगल राज, जो गरीब के लिए लड़ता हो उसको कहते हैं जंगल राज। प्रधानमंत्री जी, ये बिहार है, बिहार उड़ती चिड़िया को भी हल्दी लगाना जानती है बिहार की जनता। बिहार की जनता ढूंढ रही आई है। प्रधानमंत्री जी आपसे पूछेंगे, क्या पूछोगे आप लोग कि फैक्ट्री लगाएंगे गुजरात में और विक्ट्री चाहिए बिहार में?
Okay, let's start with the first factor, the impact of Prashant Kishor, and try and make sense of the impact the Jan Swaraj party could have. Now, the important thing for viewers to remember is that till the time PK and his party start registering a significant number of votes, it really makes not much of a material difference to what happens on the 14th. At the very least, PK's party needs to get more than 8% to start impacting the overall electoral fortune of the state. Maybe some localized impact, but on the pan-state basis, at least 8%. Anything less than that is really just one of the various players not making much of material impact. Now, the critical question with PK, and we'll see that in just a moment, is which alliance does the Jan Swaraj party impact more? Is it hurting the Mahagathbandhan, the Muslim Yadav Saini combination more, or is it hurting the NDA more? That's the critical question. Whose votes is he taking, if at all? Now, just on a broad basis, Psephological estimates done by the NDTV electoral team suggest that at about 15% of the vote share, PK can start having a go at about 25 odd seats. Somewhere in the late 20s, that is what is materially possible if his party gets about 15% of the vote share. At 18%, he could start getting more than 40 seats. And if that happens, that's when he becomes a very serious player. There's a lot of uncertainty, mystery around it, which is why we're putting it up straight in front. But remember, the BJP's hunch and their hope is this is all about pundits, it's all about the media. In the end, he will be a damn squib. So let's now take a look. For the first time, you'll see the kind of impact Prashant Kishor's party has at different vote shares. Okay, so we'll try and make sense of that. At about 8% of the vote share, and what you're seeing in the next column is the damage ratio. So if 45% of his votes come from the NDA and 55% come from the Mahagathbandhan, so if it's almost 50-50, 45-55, then the NDA, which when you adjust, remember in 2020, the Lok Janshakti party contested separately. So if I just look at the current formations, add that to the data from 2020, give you an adjusted result, then it's 173 for the NDA, 69 for the Mahagathbandhan and 1 for the others. That's the baseline at which we start. Here, with 8% of the vote share, which is coming roughly equally from both formations, the NDA is very comfortably in the lead at 166, the Mahagathbandhan at 72. If Prashant Kishor's party gets 12% of the votes, and in this scenario, he's actually damaging the Gathbandhan more. 60% of his votes are coming from the Gathbandhan vote bank, 40% come from the NDA vote bank. In this case, it begins to get easier for the NDA, with the NDA tally being in this case 174 versus 55 for the Mahagathbandhan. If PK ends up at about 12% of the vote share and is divided, 30% comes from the NDA, 70% comes from the Mahagathbandhan. In this case, the NDA's tally then goes up to 187 with the Gathbandhan crashing to 42. So basically, there are two things to look at. One, what vote share does he end up with? Secondly, what is the damage ratio? Who is he damaging more? And in this first scenario, we've really looked at where he's damaging the Gathbandhan more. And in a moment from now, we'll start asking our experts who they expect PK will damage more. Because the word on the street in Bihar is that the potential of him damaging the NDA is higher than that of the Gathbandhan. And we'll come to that in a moment. So let's now come to scenario 2, which is if the damage is more to the NDA. This is scenario 2. If the damage is more to the NDA, then how does this election turn? Here, 8% vote share, hypothetically for the Jan Swaraj party, which comes 55% from the NDA, 45% from the Gathbandhan. Not much changes. The NDA still wins 166 versus 72. So if PK gets only 8% of the vote share, almost 50-50, the NDA is very comfortably placed. If PK's party goes up to 12% vote share, and this time 60% of the votes are coming from the NDA, 40% coming from the Mahagathbandhan, then the NDA tally starts to come down, 155. But remember, 123 is the magic mark. It's only if the NDA slips before 123 that they lose the election. Till then, okay, so it's irritating, it's problematic, but it's not a game changer. If PK's party gets 12% of the vote share, and this is in a ratio of 70-30, 70 coming from the NDA, 30 coming from the Mahagathbandhan, then the NDA tally comes down to 134. The Mahagathbandhan then is at 95. Still problematic. Maybe it's not a convincing victory, but it's a victory nonetheless, and that's all that matters. It is when PK's party starts moving into the 16%, 18% range, and there if 70% of the votes are coming from the NDA and only 30% from the Mahagathbandhan, that is where you then have a scenario where the NDA goes down to 114, the Mahagathbandhan at 104, and PK's party largely is the others. This is others. So broadly, let's assume PK's party would be somewhere 20 plus in this scenario. It is if PK gets about 18% of the vote. And remember, this is a new party in a very caste-driven state. So it's not easy for the Jan Swaraj party to go like is being depicted in scenario 2 and pick up 18% of the vote. But if that happens, then you got a scenario where the NDA tally can come down to 98, the Mahagathbandhan can be at 110, and that is problematic because that's the first scenario where the MGB actually goes ahead of the NDA. So that's a broad sense because there's been so much noise and fury, song and dance on the streets around the Jan Swaraj party. But what impact does it actually have, and how does this translate into numbers, which is why we built that scenario analysis. I want to welcome our guests joining me in the studio. I've got Ajit Jha. He's been writing some cracking pieces for the NDTV website. He's been also all across our YouTube, having a good time. A lot of time spent as a print journalist, now multimedia. I see all the YouTube producers chasing you, the website asking you to write, social, television, digital, everything. Ajit, this is your home state?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm really enjoying it because I'm looking at the whole sort of elections from about 3 angles, as you rightly pointed out.
And I have Kanchan Gupta joining us as well, one of India's senior most political journalists and analysts. I want to go across first to Ravi Shankar Prasad. He treated us to the most delicious litti, mutton and choka when we were at his residence in Patna most recently. I'm massively famished and very hungry. Ravi ji, welcome. Thank you so much for your time and thank you for the most delicious meal. You know, we're looking at Bihar, and the one question we're starting this particular show off is the expectation around the damage or the impact Prashant Kishor has. We saw what the Psephologists are saying in terms of vote share, conversion into seats, who he damages more. Leave all that aside. From the BJP's perspective, this is your Lok Sabha constituency of Patna. This is your home state. What's your assessment at the moment about the potential damage of the Jan Swaraj party? Ravi Shankar ji, welcome.
First of all, Rahul, I'm happy you enjoyed the mutton and also the litti. But this was for private consumption, not for public declaration on NDTV. You have created a problem for me. But I must clarify, I had to do a lot of persuasion to make you really enjoy the litti and mutton.
Sir, वो भी तो private था, वो क्यों बता रहे हो?
The limousine liberals had come from Delhi. I'm happy. Because you disclose everything. Therefore, limousine liberals do come to follow elections. I'm happy you also joined them. Today is a very exhausting day after nearly a month of hectic campaign, Rahul. I will be very brief. Your statistics apart, many of your observations also began with hypothetically speaking. My take as an activist in the Bihar election is that for the last nearly 25 years plus, Bihar election is clearly subdivided into forces with Lalu Prasad ji, forces with Nitish Kumar and NDA. This really started from the year 96 onwards, which further matured and concretized. Elections after elections. There have been one, two, Nitish ji going to other side but coming back again after getting fed up with corruption. Therefore, all your statistical projections, I don't agree, to be very frank to you. I don't question your people, your statistics, your analysis. But Rahul Babu, हम भी जमीन पर रहते हैं ना, तो बिहार में जमीन को हम समझते हैं और बिहार के लोग PK is making a lot of noise. Good, in a democracy, every party and leader has got the right to make noise. But on the ground level, the situation is very completely settled. Who is going with whom, who is not going with whom. And the kind of statistics which you are showing is not going to be relevant at all, except to very firmly declare that the NDA is going to receive a convincing majority. And all the ground reports which we have received is that Nitish Kumar ji is also having a lot of sympathy factor, which may be a little under stress in the year 2020. Therefore, all this plus Narendra Modi's impact, the two brothers Narendra Modi and Nitish Kumar openly declaring a commitment to develop Bihar, all these sounding very, very effectively on the ground.
You know, the big hope that, and Pawan Verma ji, who's now working very closely with Prashant Kishor, is joining us. The big hope, Ravi Shankar ji, that PK's party has is that they can convert the youth and migrants into a vote bank who go beyond typical caste definitions. That because they've seen the rest of the world, they've traveled, worked in other parts of the country, therefore they are not bound by typical Muslim, Yadav, EBC, upper caste rigidities. They think differently. We saw that in Delhi with the Aam Aadmi Party being able to turn it into a class election. That's their hope. You understand Bihar well. Do you at all think, Ravi Shankar Prasad, that is possible, or do you think this is only largely going to be a castle in the air, great commentary, good for copy, but not materializing into much on the 14th?
First of all, I would like to very humbly request, don't drag me into a discussion.
Not at all.
I was told you are going to talk to me for a few minutes. After more than a month, a very exhausting campaign, today spare me, okay? Because you insisted, therefore I have come for a few minutes. Let me explain what I am trying to highlight. This kind of projections is not new. They do come. I welcome Mr. Prashant Kishor making a lot of noise, efforts. But the more he makes the noise, the more the choices becomes clear. He is also forced to acknowledge the corruption of Lalu Prasad, the misrule, the impact of Jungle Raj. Therefore, whom to go? If that is also being articulated repeatedly by Mr. Prashant Kishor, which we have seen, reported widely, therefore who is the choice? And ultimately, Nitish ji, I must tell you, it is a matter of great political insight and analysis. After 20 years in power, Nitish ji has maintained his simplicity without any taint. And if I can tell you what is happening on the ground, Nitishwa theek hai, theek kaam kar hai. You must try to understand what is resonating on the ground. If you are not able to go that, all this cacophony of television and all this report, etc. इसलिए मैं थोड़ा आपसे गुजारिश करूंगा कि जब आप इतने सेमिनल इशू को डिस्कस कर रहे हैं तो थोड़ा अम्बल सिंपल बिहारी के सिंपल अम्बल अंडरस्टैंडिंग को भी समझिए, आर्टिकुलेट करिए.
Absolutely. While there is a certain community of older people who saw Jungle Raj and therefore are petrified by the spectre of the return of Lalu Raj, there is a young generation that has seen what's happening in Bangalore, they've seen what's happening in Mumbai, they've seen what's happening in Delhi and elsewhere, and they see how their state has been left behind. My question, Ravi Shankarji, was, are you concerned that these youth voters need not necessarily ascribe to traditional thoughts around how communities vote? Would they potentially be tempted to think about voting for change, because they've only seen in their 20 years as adults, they've only really seen the Nitish Raj, they haven't seen anything else, and they've seen what's happening elsewhere. That's the question, that's the context.
That question is relevant, I don't deny that. But they have also a family. And the curse of Jungle Raj, if they had not suffered individually, their families have suffered, their parents have suffered, their uncles have suffered, and the story is communicated. You know, Rahul, when we were fighting the fodder scam, late Sushil Modi, Sarju Rai, Lalan Singh also joined. I need to tell you at some point in time at pleasure what kind of suffering we had to undergo, the kind of threat we had to suffer. But we held on. And today, since you are talking about, don't forget one thing, Rahul Kanwal, Lalu Prasad ji is convicted for 32.5 years in 4 separate cases. The Tejasvi Yadav stands charge framed under section 420 of the Penal Code for looting public money. If that is the case, then all the younger generation J also thinks about what is the potential, what is the alternative. Therefore, these questions, if you are not able to address properly, you will be doing great injustice to the young people. They have a mind. Today, social media is so impactful. They go through everything. We're just talking with Ajit Jha about the impact of social media. They go through everything. Therefore, what is the alternative they would like to ask? If the alternative is Tejasvi Yadav, I regret that is not a tangible or an encouraging alternative.
Well, you've had a tough day.
And if at all, for the sake of argument, I tend to accept.
Go on, complete what you're saying, sir.
Sorry?
Go on, complete your argument, sir.
I was just telling that hypothetically speaking, what you just recounted in your analysis about PK's vote, that also substantially is leaning towards a massive majority for the NDA.
No,
but that is only hypothetically speaking. We know on the ground, the battle lines are drawn and we are going to make a decisive comeback once again.
Okay. Ravi Shankarji, you had a hectic month of pitched campaigning. Thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate your thoughts. We look forward to seeing you on the first phase, then the second, and then on exit poll and counting day. And I look forward to more litti, mutton and chuka.
But I thought, on a lighter note, Rahul Kanwal, I hope you relaxed in my house, didn't you?
Bahut aanand aaya, sir. Bahut aanand. So we had a super long day. We started at 7, finished with the Home Minister at 9:30. This was the perfect way to unwind after a hectic and long day of election reportage, not campaigning, but reportage. And thank you so much for your hospitality then and for joining us on NDTV Battleground right now. Thank you, sir. Wish you all the best. So that was Ravi Shankar Prasad. What I'll do now is give you another set of analysis on the impact of Prashant Kishor, because this, as I said, is really, you could call him the X factor, you could call him the joker in the pack, the one big unknown which will determine what happens on the 14th. Now this data is by Amitabh Tiwari, who also comes from Bihar, knows more than a thing or two about his own home state, and therefore is trying to look at what's happening in Bihar from that lens. So let's take a look at the data. This is compiled by Amitabh Tiwari. This is just the base figure, right? If you adjust for actuals, it's 42% for NDA, 39% for the Gathbandhan. This is how it actually was, but then, as I said earlier, Chirag Paswan was fighting separately. So this is the base figure he starts from, and then he's building out different scenarios. Let's take the first scenario, this by Psephologist and analyst Amitabh Tiwari. Now, in scenario 1, he's saying Jan Swaraj gets 10% of the votes. Here, if 5% comes from the Gathbandhan and 5% comes from the others, remember 26% did not vote either for the Gathbandhan or for the NDA. These are the others. He's saying he picks 5%. In this scenario, he's not suggesting PK damage the NDA. Here again, it's a clear victory. If there's an 8% gap between the Gathbandhan and the NDA, it's game over. It's a sweep, a decisive sweep for the NDA. Let's now come to scenario 2. In scenario 2, Amitabh Tiwari projects that he's picking up 5% of the vote from the NDA and 5% from the others. So if 5% comes from the NDA Then the Gathbandhan gets to 39% of the vote share. The NDA gets to 37% of the vote share, which means it will be a tight election. The Gathbandhan typically has concentrated votes in Bihar. This scenario would give the Gathbandhan the edge. The Jan Swaraj party at 10% would have some impact on seats, 10% overall pan-state vote share, but not much of an impact on seats across the state. Here, the Gathbandhan goes through if 5% of the votes come from the NDA. Let's now come to scenario 3. Scenario 3 is 10% vote share, 5% coming from the others, and he picks up equally from the Gathbandhan and the NDA. 2.5% are NDA supporters, 2.5% are Gathbandhan supporters, which means he's damaging both. In this scenario, the NDA is at 36%, the Gathbandhan at 36%. In this scenario, again, the NDA, it won't be a landslide decisive victory, but it will be enough for the NDA to win. A 3% vote share gap is typically enough to cross the victory margin, but it won't be the 2010 type of result, which was the historic best of the NDA previously. So these are the three scenarios which has been put together by Amitabh Tiwari, and I want to go across now to Amitabh Tiwari to try and get him to explain, because these are scenario building. Now you've been traveling the state, Amitabh, this is your Janpad as it were, and therefore leave the scenarios aside for a moment. Of what you've understood of what's happening on the ground, which of these scenarios is most likely to actually come true? Whose votes is he damaging more, and to what extent? Amitabh.
No, so clearly, since Bihar has a history of around 20% vote share to others, what Prashant Kishor has done is that he has emerged as the CM face of the voters who have been voting for other smaller parties and independents. So I am pretty sure that he is likely to inflict the highest damage to others, which is consolidating the vote of others, sort of a third front, which you can categorize as an anti-NDA or an anti-Mahagathbandhan vote, because they now see an institutional force, a face. They get a face who can take on both the NDA and the Mahagathbandhan. Now there are, if you see, where is he getting traction from? Clearly, youth is one section where he is getting traction from, largely the 18 to 24 or 18 to 30 category youth. And there, I see he is fairly getting traction from around 12 to 15% voters. Now that you can say is an opportunity loss for the NDA, for the Mahagathbandhan, because Tejasvi Yadav has emerged also as a choice of the youth, highlighting unemployment as one of the key issues. And in 2020, the youth have backed him largely on a promise of creating jobs of around 10 lakh. But when you see as the social profile of the voters of Jan Swaraj, you see that the highest traction he is getting is also amongst the upper caste. Because the upper caste also see an opportunity or hope that they can get a chief minister from their community after 35 years. And this is also one of the reasons precisely that the NDA or the top leadership, which is the Prime Minister and the Home Minister, are not clearly announcing or saying that Nitish could be the CM, because 1/3 of BJP voters largely do not want to see Nitish as CM and comprise of a large section of upper caste, and Jan Swaraj has put up 92 upper caste and Baniya community candidates. So there is a fear amongst the BJP also that these voters, like in 2020, had veered to the LJP, could veer towards the Jan Swaraj. So largely upper caste, a section of Muslims and Dalits, and if you see the economic or socio-economic profile, it's largely again the middle class, educated educated middle class, because he is highlighting corruption, and also a section of the poor because he is also raising issues of healthcare.
His
game is largely predicated on the 83 seats.
You've given so many different communities.
नहीं अभी आ रहे हैं ना. तो essentially क्या है? Yeah. See, essentially क्या है कि he is not likely to win these elections, correct? So he is likely to play the role of a spoiler, just like the LJP did in 2020 elections, damaging both the NDA and the Mahagathbandhan. There are 83 seats where the victory margin was less than equal to 5% in 2020. 37 won by NDA and 38 won by Mahagathbandhan, 7 by others. If on these seats he gets 5% plus vote share, he is likely to damage the prospects of either of the parties. So he is likely to play the role of a spoiler in this election. The better Jan Swaraj does, the closer will be the election. The worse Jan Swaraj does, the election could also go one-sided.
Okay, that's very interesting from Amitabh Tiwari. Two critical points to remember there. One, that he's likely to impact the others. About 25% of the vote wasn't NDA, wasn't MGB. He's saying that's where the maximum, whatever he gets, that's where the maximum percentage comes from. The second point he makes is that the better he does, the more exciting the result on the 14th of November. The worse he does, which is what the BJP is hoping, then the sooner we can all go back home on the 14th and eat some litti mutton and choka, because that election will then be over in one way or the other. Okay, so that is the impact of Prashant Kishor, and who better than Pawan Verma to explain on the ground the impact that this is having, because Pawan Verma, a well-known diplomat, author, writer, politician, worked with Nitish Kumar, has now been working very, very closely with Prashant Kishor, is now a part of his party. I have Sanjay Jha joining us, and I have Subhrashta joining us, and we have Manish Verma from the Janata Dal United. And in a moment from now, I'll have Sachin Pilot, senior leader of the Congress, joining us as well. But I want to go across to Pawan Verma first. Mr. Verma, you know, this idea, as we traveled through Muzaffarpur, Vaishali, Patna, different parts of the first phase, what I found was that there was a certain traction amongst the youth in particular, but they also were apprehensive that their vote may go waste, because PK this time is not likely to win. That yes, he's made some song and dance, he's raised the right issues, he's made some impact, but vote waste nahi karna hai. And therefore, all these crores of social media impressions which your young energetic team was talking about in the Jan Swaraj Professionals unit, where you're doing all your IPAC style social media and digital analytics, that may be very strong on YouTube, it may be very strong on digital, but the concern is that this might not amount to too many seats come counting day.
Well, Rahul, let me say that what Ravi Shankar Prasad was calling noise is a quiet revolution unfolding under his very feet on the ground, which he claims to know but is out of touch with. And I can say what you're calling a song and dance is actually pretty much the same thing. You have to understand that Jan Swaraj is not a spoiler in this election, because you're seeing the voting patterns of this election from the prism of previous elections, where essentially it was a bipolar contest between two coalitions. Jan Swaraj is now commanding the majority constituency in Bihar, cutting across caste and religion, which is the constituency for change. And that cuts across the caste hierarchies and religion, and commands above all the bulk of the youth. And Bihar's demography is such that 58% of Bihar are below, the population is below the age of 35. Also, the issues that he has raised, the blueprint that he has provided, is appealing to the poor and marginalized voters who for 30 years have not had an alternative and are looking at the Jan Swaraj as an alternative which can provide them a moksha from these coalitions which have done very little on the ground for them. So therefore, quit this analysis about 5%, 8%, 10%, 12%. In my view, given the fact that at least 28% of Biharis have not ever voted for the two coalitions in the past, and if he hives off at the very minimum 10% from both the coalitions, you are looking at the possibility of Jan Swaraj, whom you call a spoiler and Ravi Shankar Prasad calls a noise, and whom you also said is just creating a song and dance on social media, to be actually veering towards the 40% vote. And you will see it happening on the...
One second. I must say very clearly that if Jan Swaraj gets 40% vote share, it would be an electoral record of a kind that Bihar hasn't seen. It's highly unlikely.
Said that it was going to change.
Highly improbable. He's worked very hard. It's happened once in Delhi, where in 2013 the AAP suddenly burst to the fore, captured a lot of imagination, won even more in 2015. Prabhu Chawla joins us. Prabhu, do you think that's possible? Pawan Verma is now working very closely with PK. He's convinced it's possible. But Delhi was about class. Bihar is typically about caste. Can that change in this election?
Both PK and Verma have been part of the JDU establishment earlier. They must be knowing what is wrong with them and what is right with them. Since they are insiders, they must be knowing what is the problem facing there. Because I want to say only one thing. For me, Prashant Kumar may be a good manager. I've seen him working in Gujarat. He is not a leader people will accept him easily. He doesn't come like a leader. He comes like a person who can manage things better.
But he's been, as we were just hearing from Pawan, he's been getting a lot of crowds. I traveled with him in certain places. Despite the rain, he was attracting crowds. That's not in question. The question is, will those crowds turn into votes?
No, the question is, he has been there in politics for the last, when he joined Nitish Kumar, he has been there. Sure. So he knows how to collect the crowd. If he can collect the crowd for Modi and create an environment, he's expert of creating that. So I'm saying whether he converts into votes, that's the question we have to wait and watch. As somebody put it, that the research was done in Bihar, for example, 70% of the opinion poll exit was wrong. Sure. It was the only state where everything has been wrong. If he was so expert, so he would have won election for all the elections which he is campaigning.
Sachin Pilot joins us, senior leader of the Congress party. The question, Mr. Pilot, of course, is about the audacity of ambition. Here's this one leader who works as hard as is possible. You did work hard in Rajasthan, but you also had the might of the Congress party behind you in the last assembly elections. Here's someone who comes out of nowhere, raising his own funds, going out every village, every district. Apart from everything else that may happen on the 6th, the 11th and the 14th, is that not a lesson for the Congress about how hard they need to work on the ground, every village, every district, every panchayat, to try and build some momentum?
Rahul, every one of us who's in politics, especially ones who are in electoral politics, work hard. We may not get the same media coverage, or some people may not get the recognition, but I can tell you, anybody who fights elections, whether it's ML or MP, works hard. And as a political leader who needs to work in the ranks and file, create your own momentum, one has to work hard. As far as Bihar is concerned, it's a very complicated state in terms of number of parties contesting. In fact, I think no party except one is contesting all seats. So it will be a Gadmandan versus NDA fight. I don't want to discount anyone. I think every election should be taken with seriousness, and every opponent should be considered a serious opponent. But historically, a lot of votes in Bihar have gone to the third option. So it's not that the two major groups get all the votes. There's always been a bifurcation of votes. So that's not a new phenomena. What in the end will happen, one does not know. But I do know that for 20 years, there's been the same government in the same face in Bihar. And frankly speaking, people of Bihar are looking for a change. Now, who is the one possibility that people have most faith and credibility in terms of being a viable option? It is the Mahagathbandhan, the Congress-RJD alliance. And I think we have fought the elections together in Parliament. We're fighting in Vidhan Sabha. Unlike the NDA, where they were opposing Nitish Kumar in Lok Sabha, before that they were against him. I remember Mr. Nitish Kumar sent his fingernails and lakhs of fingernails collected as DNA samples to the Prime Minister in Delhi, because they were challenging his origins. So there's been a lot of back and forth between Nitish Kumar and the BJP. And I'm of the opinion that whatever I've seen in Bihar in the campaign, the young people want a viable alternative. They want jobs. And our commitment and our manifestos, our joint manifestos, squarely target that section. So I'm hopeful that we'll get a positive result on the 14th. I don't think anyone is a less of a challenge. But I think people of Bihar want someone, and they want to give their votes to somebody or some entity that will form a government and give a better delivery. Okay,
the issue that Rahul Gandhi and the Congress took up in the biggest fashion in the Bihar elections was the matter of vote adhikar, vote chori, SIR deletion. I'll show you from the NDTV election leaderboard some analysis of what really happened, and you haven't really seen this because there's been a lot of noise about SIR, but how does this translate on the ground? Let's try and make some sense of that. We'll show this data to you, and then you'll get a sense of how much the actual average impact of the SIR deletions has been in different regions of the state of Bihar, and then we'll get a sense from Sachin Pilot about whether the Congress touted this to be a much bigger issue than it actually was. Because remember, when I was speaking to the election commissioner in Bihar, he said there were 3 complaints, just 3 actual complaints, nobody else complained. So take a look, assess this data for a moment, and then I'll ask Sachin Pilot what he makes of this. So on an average, across the state, the reduction in the votes on account of the SIR exercise has only been about 4.89%. That's the percentage of votes that have come down across the state of Bihar. The maximum impact has been in Simanchal, which is in the northeastern part of the state of Bihar, which is largely, which is an area where Muslim population is higher. That's the charge, that Muslimanon ka vote kaat rahe. To some extent, that region has been impacted the most, but it's 6.12%. On an average, the votes that have come down are 19,576 in every constituency. Remember, this is data that you're seeing for the first time, done by the NDTV election battleground team. This is from Jay Mrig, who's been working with the NDTV team as a political analyst and psephologist. The area that comes next, and part of it go to vote on the first phase, is Bhojpur, where the reduction is 5.56%. Here the average votes dropped in every seat is about 17,900. Now Sachin Pilot, here's the point. The average reduction is about 5%. Drop in votes is about 15,809, and on the ground the reality is that there haven't been hordes of voters. It isn't as if hundreds of thousands of voters, as the Congress and Rahul Gandhi were initially alleging, have come to the election commission saying mera naam kat gaya, mere vote ki chori hogi. That hasn't happened. Did the Congress pick on an issue which ultimately didn't turn out to be as deleterious or as damaging as you originally imagined when you started that vote adhikar yatra, Mr. Pilot?
Not at all, Rahul. It's a very serious issue. Mr. Gandhi has brought to the fore very tangible empirical evidence of the malpractices that were happening in the voter list, in the polling, so on. It's important for us to have brought that to the fore and make the Election Commission answerable and accountable. The fact that you talk about 5-6% of crores of people, so 18,000 votes in each constituency is not a small number. And I think it is our pushback that has forced the officers in the Election Commission to be more transparent, to be more accountable, because if we had not done all of what we did in the last few months, who knows how it would have ended up. And you're saying that people are not going to the Election Commission and asking for their votes have been deleted. You have in Bihar and most parts of our country, not everybody is aware that their names have been struck off till the polling day. And you're wrong. I think there are many NGOs, many political leaders and parties who have gone to the Election Commission asking for revision of the people that have been cut. There are so many examples of people who have been put as dead, who are walking around. People who in one house there are 300 votes in one address. So all those malpractices have to be filtered out, and it's the responsibility of the EC to do it. I think it's a very pertinent issue. It's not just Bihar, it's all over the country, and we are very clear. Entire India Alliance, entire political opposition of India has said that the SIR cannot be accepted at face value. You have to be open and transparent and accountable. That's very important for the efficacy of our election that are so fundamental to our
what
democracy.
you're saying is correct. One can say elections should not be transparent. But I'm saying, is the impact as much as the Congress originally? I have a second data set I want to show you. It gives some perspective on the actual impact, because now SIR has actually played itself out once. So I'll show you the impact it actually had on the state, and then the question really is whether the impact is what was originally imagined. Now, here's the sense of the impact the SIR could have. There are about 30 seats according to our calculations where the reduction in votes is between 0 and 2.5%. So 30 such seats. The average victory margin in the last elections on these seats was 14,309. The average victory margin is important because if it's a very tight seat, then it can go anywhere if you reduce some votes. However, if it's a reasonable size victory margin, then you have some room for comfort, as it were. Now, the seats where the impact was less than, so between 2.5 to 4.9, there are 106 such seats where the victory margin was about 17,000. Where the reduction is between 4.9 and 7%, there are 70 such seats where the victory margin was about 15,000, and where the reduction was 7% plus, there are 31 such seats. So actually, the number of seats from a data perspective which can be impacted on account of SIR deletion is about 31, because the reduction is 7.27% and more. So that's the reality. The point I'm making, Mr. Pilot, is one is rhetoric ki vote chori ho rahi hai, vote chori hui hai, but agar kisi ki chori hui, he would have been out complaining, cribbing, shouting, social media, digital, everywhere saying that my name has been struck off the voter list. That simply hasn't happened. That's the question I'm asking you, Mr. Pilot.
Rahul, you have to understand the reality of our country. I'm surprised you feel that people who are working on farmland, landless laborers, people who are living on 100 rupees a day are going to the Election Commission office and asking for their votes to be re-registered. They don't even know half of them. It is the leadership or the political class or the people who are more aware of what's going on need to stand up for them. Please understand the reality of Indian rural parts of India. Not everybody knows that their votes have been cut off. And we have been saying that even if one vote is struck off, you're giving 5-6%, I'm saying even 1%, 1% vote has been cut off, it is against the values of our democracy. So I think we have to fight for what is right and what is justifiable. You're saying 31 seats are affected out of 243, that's a lot of seats. If that number is affecting 31 potential results, that's a huge election margin. And I think more than winning and losing, it's the principle behind it. I think we as opposition are within our right to flag an issue when we have evidence. Mr. Rahul Gandhi went on public on television and said, here is the number, here is the voter list, and here where I'm finding faults, and it's given as clear as day. Uske bavjood bhi there's no action taken, and we have really asked Commission to act unbiasedly. Why says when I pose question to the Election Commission, is the BJP spokesperson come and defend it? That's unacceptable. They have to be above partisan lines and above ideologies, right? Election Commission. And if you don't conduct elections properly, in fact, I'll make one point. There was a question of Election Commission deleting the CCTV footage after 45 days of polling. Now, who's asked for that? Why get rid of that evidence? All these small steps indicate that there is something more sinister than what we can see. And that's the point we're trying to make. Forget about it being an election issue. It's a country's issue. And we have full right to raise that issue. Bihar election is fought on issues of education, poverty and performance, and law and order. We've just seen this political murder that happened a few days ago. People want a change, and I can sense that palpable sense of change happening all over Bihar.
I leave it for the time being over there. Mr. Pilot, thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on the exit poll day and hopefully on counting day as well. Thank you very much for taking our time and talking about the issues that matter to the Congress and the Gathbandhan in this campaign. What we're going to do is slip into a very quick break right now. When we come back, we're going to do some political adda. I've got Kanchan Gupta, Ajit Jha, Prabhu Chawla with us in the studio. We've got some of the country's top number crunchers, Psephologists joining us. So I'll have Pradeep Gupta from Access My India. I'll have Yashwant Deshmukh from Seawater. We'll have Amitabh Tiwari, Manisha Priyam, who understands the state. And we'll try and ask them, in their perception, number chodo, jeet kaun raha hai. We'll get to that part of the business when we come back on the other side of a very quick break. You're watching NDTV Battleground. We'll return on the other side of a very short break. Stay with us. So we've looked at lots of issues in that X factor that we were running. Kanchan Gupta, your sense of the one factor that you think will be critical to determining who wins?
I think it will be the woman voter of Bihar. If you go through the results of the last 3 or 4 elections, it's essentially the woman voter who has held the key as to who gets to win in that particular election. Now, I'll just quickly come back to where you started about the impact which a new party can have in an election. Look, in a bipolar election, especially in a state which has not seen a third party for a long, long time, it's impossible for them to come up with a sizable vote share.
Why is it impossible? It happened in Delhi, Bada?
No, it happened in Delhi because the Congress collapsed and they walked into that space. In Bihar, neither of the 2 polls have collapsed. A better comparison would be Gujarat, where you have seen them investing so much. AAP has tried to get a toehold over there. They have not been able to do that. In Punjab, again, AAP won because both Akali Dal and Congress collapsed. So unless a party collapses, for a new party to make an...
That's an important point that Kanchan Gupta makes.
And a last quick point, in West Bengal, for instance, you have established parties of the left and the Congress contesting elections together, and they can't add up more than 5 to 6% of the vote. So how do you expect a newcomer, that too in a politically very robust and very sensitive state, to come up and add up?
This point that Kanchan Gupta makes, that someone must collapse for someone to explode. If both sides are largely holding on, his suggestion is that there can be damage on the margins, but not for the core to change.
the third factor, the new party, like for example, Arvind Kejriwal in AAP in Delhi, also Assam movement, if you remember. I used to live in Assam.
The AGP burst.
AGP burst. TDP in Andhra Pradesh in 1980s. So the two of them, at least the Assam, the AGP and the AAP, came out of a popular movement. Prashant Kishor has not emerged out of a popular movement like Nitish and Lalu did from the JP movement.
Prabhuji, what similarities and dissimilarities do you see between the AGP, AAP and what's happening with the Jan Swaraj Party?
Look at the regional party first. Wherever the regional party is strong, it has not collapsed. Because that party wins in collaboration with the national party like JDU is surviving because of the BJP. It is coming down, it is sinking one by one. And therefore there is a RJD which vote share as well as the number of seats there. They are the largest single party. In the past 20 years when the Nitish Kumar is there, they have not gone down. If there is a regional party which is very strong and there is a national party supporting the regional party, there is the third force which emerges for whatever reason cannot survive. It has not happened. You look at Tamil Nadu, various parties that have been floated by film stars, but they could not do anything.
They got to about 10%.
10%. So Prashant Kumar at best can do, they will spoil her because who is going to spoil, I don't know. But he has no chance because the regional outfit is very well entrenched. It is a choice between a tainted and retired chief minister. That's a different issue. But which will they choose? Whether they elect a tainted possible chief minister or a retired chief minister, that's a different issue. But both are looking very solidly groomed to the ground and they cannot be disturbed by any third party.
So the NDTV leaderboard, our election analytics dashboard is fully ready, set to rev up. We'll go there, give you a sense of what's up for grabs in phase one. We'll also try and get a sense of how keenly contested the elections was last time, where you get a better sense of the impact a newcomer can make. So all that and more in the second part of NDTV's Battleground when we come back on the other side of a very quick break. Stay with us. What we're going to do now is take a look at what's at stake in phase one. Let's rev up the NDTV leaderboard. I'll give you a sense of what phase one really looks like. We've got a comparative here in terms of how phase one compares with the last elections. And then if you just look at the 2020 numbers for phase one, there are 121 seats that will be up for grabs. The Gathbandhan had 65 of them. The NDA had 56 of them. And if I break this up party-wise, the RJD had 42, the BJP 32, 23 for the JDU. Typically, these seats which are going to polls have been dominated by the RJD. The JDU before 2020 was the number two party in these seats. And then there was the BJP, which really went up from 3 to 2. But this has really been largely dominated by the RJD in the past. Now, this is as far as phase one is concerned. I want to show you on your screen right now this data set which really compares phase 1 in 2020 with phase 1 in 2025. In 2020, there were 71 seats in the first phase. Remember, that was an election which had 3 phases. 71 seats in the first phase. The Gathbandhan got 47 of them. The NDA got 22 of them. This is 121 seats, 2025. At this moment, we don't know where things stand. But let me introduce you to a new set of guests who are joining us, and hopefully they can shed some light, because Pradeep Gupta is doing a lot of polling in Bihar. His teams have been out and about across the state, runs Access My India. Pradeep ji, welcome. Great to have you with us. We've got Yashwant Deshmukh from Sea Voter with us on this broadcast as well. And I have Manish Verma. Manish Verma is with the Janata Dal United. And I want to spend some time with Manish Verma before I go across to our other guests. And I have Jay Mrig joining us. Some of the data that we put out was actually originally crunched by Jay Mrig. So thank you for working so closely with us and helping us bring this together. I want to spend some time with Manish Verma just before we get into the most exciting part, which is who's winning. Okay, so I want to show you what the impact of the women factor for Nitish Kumar will be. Now, with the Janata Dal United, there are 2 things to remember. A, there is the age factor of Nitish Kumar. All kinds of stories doing the rounds in Bihar about his ill health, about his inability to be fully comprehensible, he's been campaigning, he's been reading scripts, so he's been doing 4 or 5 sabhas, but there is a problem in terms of his health, make no mistake about it. The second thing is that he's got a lot of women rooting for him. So what you have over here are the 2020 assembly results. The darker the shade of green, the higher the percentage of women who voted for the Janata Dal United in those seats and the BJP. The lighter the shade, those largely phase 1 of last time, are the seats where the men voted more. So wherever the men voted more than the women, the RJD typically tended to do well. Wherever the women voted much more than the men. So here are the nuggets, right? Women voter turnout was higher than male voter turnout on 167 out of 243 seats in the last elections in Bihar in 2020. Out of the 167 seats where women voted more than men, 95 of them were won by the NDA. Out of the 45 seats won by the JDU, 37 seats witnessed higher women turnout. This is really the core. People say EBCs are the core of the JDU vote. You know, the reality is that women have been his staunchest voters for many elections. And just before this election, Nitish Kumar and his government have sent 10,000 rupees. When I was speaking to the Chief Secretary, the number that I had was 1.41 CR women benefited so far. They hope over the next few days to take this to 2 CR. So if 2 crore women have voted, what chances are there that these will then vote for the NDA on counting day? You know, people will say, Manish Verma, that this is basically trying to buy an election. Overall, the JDU got about 15.4% of the votes, but the share of the JDU was 16.6% on seats where women voted more than men. Manish Verma, is this not just an attempt to wash off anti-incumbency by sending 10,000 rupees directly into the account of a woman in a relatively poor state? Is the JDU and Nitish Kumar now not just trying to buy out this election?
Rahul, am I audible?
I hear you well, Manishji. Please go on.
See, this is not the first time that we have been working for the women, Janata Dal United and its leader. Nitish Kumar ji has been working continuously for upliftment of women. Right from the initial days and the other 10 years, we have systematically taken steps for empowerment of women, be the female education, be the formation of SHG, in every aspect we have been working for the empowerment of the women. And you see the schemes of government of Bihar, Nitish Kumar is very particular about the women empowerment. And see, we have worked for the education of the women. In the beginning, we have started Posak Yojana, bicycle Yojana, some incentive. If women some girls have done, say, intermediate, we are giving incentive to them. For graduation, we are also giving incentive to them. And in job also, we are giving 35% reservation for women. So we have been working continuously for upliftment of women, and particularly in SHG. If you see the SHG movement in Bihar, that is Jivika movement, is particularly very encouraging. The kind of
while there are reasons why women have voted for Nitish Kumar in the past, and there is the money that's come in, there are concerns also about his health. I want to show our viewers very briefly, Manishji, what Home Minister Amit Shah said in NDTV's power play in Patna when we spoke to him and asked him what the health. And remember, that manifesto release of the NDA was just about 30 seconds. They just put out the manifesto and went, and questions were asked by the opposition about whether no questions were taken because there was a sense that the Chief Minister may not be in a position to answer them. That's the question that was asked. Let's take a look, and then I'll just come back to Manishji in a moment.
जो कुल मिला के रिलीज फंक्शन था करीब 30 सेकंड का था, वहाँ पे किसी ने कुछ कहा नहीं, और सवाल ये उठा कि क्या इसलिए तो नहीं कि नीतीश जी की तबीयत ठीक नहीं है, इसलिए
ऐसा है। ये बहुत सुबह से चल चुका, अब कोई टीआरपी से मिलेगी नहीं आपको। 6 लोग थे, 6 लोग 20-20 मिनट का भाषण करेंगे तो 1.25 घंटा भाषण चलेगा। सबने मैनिफेस्टो रिलीज कर दिया, हमारा साझा मैनिफेस्टो है। ये चुनाव पांचों दल जो हमारे हैं, पांचों दल 5 पांडव की तरह एकजुट होकर लड़ रहे हैं और हमारा साझा घोषणा पत्र है। और घोषणा पत्र के तुरंत बाद सभी दल के प्रमुख नेताओं ने सभी मीडिया के लोगों को लगभग 5 घंटा तक इंटरव्यू दिया है, तो जवाब देने में किसी को तकलीफ नहीं है।
नहीं, पर जिस तरीके से अमेरिका के राष्ट्रपति चुनाव में उस वक्त के राष्ट्रपति जो बाइडेन की तबीयत एक बड़ा मुद्दा बना, आपको लग रहा है कि नीतीश जी की सेहत इस वक्त एक इशू है इस इलेक्शन में?
शायद आप कैंपेन को ढंग से फॉलो नहीं करे हो। वो हर रोज 5 सभाएं कर रहे हैं। 5 गांव में बिहार में जाना अपने आप में अच्छी सेहत का परिचायक माना जाता है।
सभी के लिए काम किया गया है। हमने अपने परिवार के लिए कुछ नहीं किया। अब बिहारी कहलाना अपमान का नहीं, सम्मान की बात है। बिहार के विकास में आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व वाली केंद्र सरकार का भी पूरा सहयोग मिल रहा है। बिहार का विकास एनडीए ही कर सकती है।
Can't take anything away from what Nitish Kumar has done for the state of Bihar over the past 3 decades. But Manish ji, the question really is about the capacity of the Chief Minister at this stage to be able to function as an effective Chief Minister. I mean, you can't run away from that question. You can duck, you can dodge, you can weave, but there are very serious question marks about his physical and mental ability to deliver. And do you think that may impact votes in a way that is problematic for your alliance? What's your sense of that?
See, this question has been raised, say, nearly from last 2 years. There has been several incidences where a section of media has been trying to prove that he is not having a fine health or mental health. But he has been continuously working as a chief minister. He has delivered the goods to Bihar. And you see the campaign, as Honorable Home Minister has spoken, see the campaign. For last so many days continuously he has been campaigning, and prior to the campaign also he has also completed the Nishchay Yatra, and he has visited the entire Pragati Yatra, he has visited nearly all the districts and seen all the problems of the districts. And when he came to the Patna, immediately he approved all the schemes pertaining to different districts of Bihar, amounting to nearly 50,000 crores, and nearly all the problem has been taken up. So the person who has been delivering, who has been handling the state, who has been taking up all the problem, handling the problem, what do you expect from a person, a chief minister? And last 2-3 months you have been saying that these 3 schemes he has launched, which is having a largest impact in the election.
Okay.
He has say increased the pension. He has made electricity free for nearly 120 units for most of the people. So these schemes he has been already been doing, and he has been announcing. So what do you think that if he is not in a good health, he would not have been able to deliver such kind of goods to Bihar, people of Bihar.
Okay.
Now you see the condition of women. They have been, all the women, they are staunch supporter of Nitish Kumar. The kind of empowerment that has happened in Bihar is tremendous. I believe that no part in the country has so much of work has been done in the women empowerment as it has been done in Bihar for last 20 years. It has been a tremendous work. So women are the staunch supporter. Take the case of EBC and other groups who has been continuously supporting us, JDU, they are still supporting us. So this debate, whatever has been raised regarding Prashant Kishor is not an issue in Bihar. I have been doing the campaign. I have gone to most of the constituency. I have visited most of the district. He is only seen in the social media. And particularly, you have also come, Rahul, you have come to Bihar, you have seen the ground report, and your Psephology has been telling all the truth. So this debate should not have been on focus on Prashant Kishor. What is his impact? I think his impact is minimal, and say it's going to be two-party election, two Gadbandhan election, and people of Bihar, they are very wise politically, and they will choose one of the alternative. They will not waste their votes, and this is the analysis. Whatever analysis you do, we will see after 14th.
Manish Verma is a renowned IAS officer in Bihar, worked very closely with Nitish Kumar, gave up being in the administrative services to join politics. Many saw him as a potential heir. That question is, of course, for a later day. He has, I'm told from his team, trained to catch for Purnia. So I'll see you in Purnia tomorrow. Thank you very much, Manish ji, for joining us and sharing your thoughts on why you think Nitish Kumar is still the one man that Bihar will trust the most. Okay, I want to go across to Pradeep Gupta now and get his sense of what's happening on the ground. We have Yashwant Deshmukh as well. And before that, on the leaderboard, I just want to show you the victory margins from the last time. Remember, across the state of Bihar, there were 35 seats where the margin of victory was less than 3,000 votes. These were split equally between the NDA and the MGB. 35 seats where the margin of victory was less than 3,000, and 52 seats where the margin of victory was less than 5,000. So these are really seats where there was a pitch contest last time, which means that these seats can potentially go in any direction. And then there is, of course, the Prashant Kishor issue and what happens to him. So Pradeep Gupta, your teams are out on the ground across the state of Bihar. What is it that you can tell us, without obviously revealing your exit poll results, what is it that you can tell us about how this election is shaping up and who's most likely to win? Pradeep.
So thank you, Rahul, for having me here, and congratulations to your first day, first show kind of a thing with NDTV. Now coming to Bihar, I mean, as you know, Access India always come out with exit poll findings and the predictions. We never ever do the pre-poll numbers or the predicting the winners or otherwise. Now coming to what is the dynamics on the ground when it comes to this election in Bihar. I mean, I'll tell you 3-4 factors, I think, which is very decisive. It's been spoken a lot about it. The first is caste. Caste in Bihar, 80 to 90% of the people vote basis the caste. So this is going to be the topmost number. The second is the female. Though there is 50% female, and in term of electors, it is few lakhs lesser than the male voter. But in case of turnout, 50 out of 100 vote cast, 55 belongs to women or the female, and 45 to male, meaning a good sizable gap between voter turnout among the male and female. 10 percentage points is too big a number. So this is number 2. Number 3 is the youth. And we have seen and witnessed in Bihar, particularly among the 18 year of age to 30 year of age, there is about 25%. But the turnout of youth is relatively much lesser than the other age group. This is the one fact. But the other fact is that in these days, in earlier days, let's say 15 years, 20 years back, it is the main mukhiya of the family or the elder person of the family used to take these kind of a decision, the voter whom the family should vote for. These days, these youth influence the parents and inform them whom to vote, who is good for us. So this is the 3 demography which will be in the play for sure. Now coming to the Bihar, first the caste. Now by and large, most of the castes are aligned with both sides of the Gadbandhan, and we will talk separately about Prashant Kishor impact. The upper caste, the OBC and EBC, larger section of the EBC belongs to NDA, meaning they have the age among these. The MY, the Muslim and Yadavs, we all know that is fully, Gadbandhan is having very large array. to my mind, this time in particular, those 16% Dalit, among those 16%, 5% is Paswan, 5% is Jatau, and 6% is non-Jatau. So many other Dalits are involved in that. Among the EBCs also some of the family. And this time particularly 4% Malla are the Nisad voters. These 20%, whoever get the age among these 20%, I think is going to be the winner. This is as simple as arithmetic. Now about 31-32% is Muslim and Yadav. And if they are able to get about 12 or 13% among these 20%, they will move ahead. Otherwise, NDA is there. Now, it's among Dalits also. Paswan is by and large, we know that it is there NDA is having the age. Among the Jataus, Gadbandhan may have the age, but those 6% of non-Jataus, non-Paswan Dalits, and 4% Mallas, this is where I think the further, if we narrow down this caste equation, I think he will having the age. Now coming to the Prashant Kishor. Now, among these three demography, when we project the Prashant Kishor, whatever vote he is likely to secure, whatever, is because he is the first time, definitely is going to come from among these two. Now, when it comes to the caste, because his belonging is the upper caste, he is going to dent some vote of NDA. Second is the women vote. Because of provision stand he has taken so far, and being the first time party, registering that symbol in the minds across the people, and particularly in a state socially, comparatively much lower strata, Bihar population, 90% is rural and poor. It will take some time to register. It will take at least 2 to 3 elections where Prashant Kishor really start calling the shot, or his party is likely to win. But having said that, whatever percentage he secure, one is the caste, second is the female. He is not scoring good among the female because of these two reasons. One is the provision stand he has taken, Nasabandi, and second is that it will take some time among the female voters to communicate, because again and again when you do and press the button, it's a practice one has to do. With the new symbol, it's not easy. Let me tell you, when people, and particularly women, and that too poor and rural women, go and standing in front of machine, it's not going to be easy. So there he is scoreless. Here the NDA vote is unlikely to come in a sizable number. And third is the youth. Now we know that youth as a constituency is more skewed toward the Tejasvi and to the Prashant Kishor. So here he is going to dent the prospect of Mahagathbandhan when it comes to the youth. I mean, this is something I can narrate for your viewers. And just to tell you one historical thing, and when you were talking about 2020 election last time, though the Gadbandhan and NDA secured 37, but we should not forget that LJP contested separately secured 6% vote and dented 33 seats of JDU, meaning NDA. Had they fought together, NDA should have secured about 158 seats, though I agree that 100% vote cannot shift. Even out of 6% what he secured, 5% would have been transferred to the NDA, the difference would have been much larger. So, talking about the margins and all that, when the third player was there in those seats, about 140 odd seats where the LGP contested, and OVC factor also I will talk, though they contested about 20 seats and won 5 seats, they dented the prospect of Gadbandhan only in 1 seat. Because they are largely in Simanchal, those Muslim dominated seats where the Muslim population is more than 50% or so. So this is something I just wanted to, this is my, whatever you can take away at this point of time as far as the ground realities are.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Pradeep ji, for more analysis after the first phase of polling, and then on exit poll day as well. Pradeep Gupta will be on NDTV sharing his insights, which his team at Access My India brings together. So thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you over the next few days. Thank you, Pradeep ji.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you.
I want to show on that leaderboard the point that Pradeep Gupta was making about women voters. If you actually look at the significance of women voters, this becomes very, very crucial, because the moment you actually start looking at the turnout and seeing how Bihar is voting and break this up by gender, you see that women are now outvoting men in the state of Bihar. Till about the 2005 October election, the percentage of women voting were less than the percentage of men voting, 44.5 versus 47. Since then, the pink line, which represents women voters, has gone up, so much so that in the last election there was a 5% gap. 59.7 women voted, 54.4% men voted. That's a very, very big gap, and particularly after the first phase. And you saw that in the data set that I played earlier. In the first phase, the RJD did well. In the second and the third, the JDU and the BJP ran away with the elections, but that was also largely on account of the fact that women outvoted men in favor of the NDN. This whole business of prohibition was a big factor. PK is saying he'll allow alcohol. The point that Pradeep Gupta makes is that irks women, and they fear that the bad days when men allegedly used to beat up their women, that might come back, and that might hold them from voting for Prashant Kishor's Jan Swaraj party. I want to go across to Yashwant Deshmukh now. Yashwant Deshmukh runs C Voter. Yashwant ji, your sense of where Bihar stands at this moment? Campaigning in the first phase is over. Is this likely to be a humdinger, tight election, or do you think on counting day we'll see one side run away at the hustings?
Well, I was listening to Kanchanda and Prabhu ji both. I agree largely with Kanchanda that it's gonna be one election where female voters are going to be in the driving seat. If they do, it's gonna be a historic mandate for Nitish Kumar. And if they don't, and Yuva becomes prominent on the issue of Rozgar and getting a Sarkari Naukri, then it becomes a different direction altogether for Tejaswi Yadav. I consider, Rahul, this as a watershed election actually, not just for Bihar, but for the politics that will be playing out in India for the next 50 years. And I am saying this with all seriousness, because you see, we have seen female-centric schemes in the last 3-4 assembly elections, starting with Shivraj Singh Chauhan, and then followed up with Mr. Shinde, also by Hemant Soren from the opposition camp. And we have seen that largely the female vote bank has actually came out as a caste agnostic whenever it was given some scheme, something to rally around. However, Nitish Kumar's campaign or relationship with the female voters in Bihar is very different from any politician in India so far, because that's a generational policy level kind of thing. 20-25 years back, the same girl who was going to school and was given a bicycle or a poshak or a scholarship, and when she graduated, 50,000 given to her parents when she was getting married off. Now the same girl is a mother herself, a housemaker, and now trying to become an entrepreneur with 10,000 bucks and with more things to follow on. So that relationship of that girl student 20 years back with Nitish Kumar is of a father figure. It's not a one-time transactional thing. Please try to understand. That makes Nitish Kumar very different. Now, I have been hearing since morning many arguments saying that, ye to already ho chuka hai, female to zyada vote dete hain, and largely they follow the same caste line. And I just refuse to believe that females follow the same line anymore. If had that been the case, then there would not have been.
One of the things you said is, one, women matter, the second, the youth matter. I was talking to a few youngsters when we were traveling around Muzaffarpur and Vaishali, and one of the things they said is, they were enticed by the prospects of what Prashant Kishor was promising, a very different election narrative, but they also thought, yaar, aisa na vote waste ho jaye. Then they also said that while they were encouraging their parents and their relatives to vote for PK, they were receiving a lot of pushback from the family saying, nahi, PK ko nahi dena, hum log Yadav hain, ya Muslim hain, or whatever, EBC, etc., depending on who we were speaking to, that there was a pushback from the family not to vote for the Jan Swaraj. So the traditional family may have voted a certain way. The question is, will the youth vote along the same way, or will they vote differently?
Well, absolutely good question, Rahul. Because just I mentioned that the female need not be caste driven, and they can be very well a caste agnostic. Same happens with the youth voter as well. Having said that, Rahul, the thing is the section of the crowd that PK is kind of addressing to is a forward-looking, progressive kind of a youth, and trying to go beyond the caste lines. That is why there is a lot of friction between their families, just as you mentioned. Largely, that number, our tracker numbers are suggesting largely the traction that he is getting is coming from the NDA fold. So the angry NDA voter, which is unlikely to vote for the NDA among the youth, is getting towards getting a swing towards Prashant Kishor. So he is getting attraction, and as Prabhu ji said that that he is not coming out of any andolan or anything, and not even a caste line, that he is an upper caste, so he should be getting that kind of support. So what he is trying to do is brave, but I don't know. I mean, we have been tracking his journey from 3% to 20% in popularity rating, but I have been maintaining all the way that vote, that popularity may or may not convert into vote, and that vote may or may not convert into seats. So at the end of the day, his journey is starting. Most probably, this is not his election. Election will come 5 years down the lane. But the point which I was trying to make,
that this is not necessarily his election to win. Like Kanchi Ram used to say कि पहला election हारने के लिए, दूसरा हराने के लिए, तीसरा जीतने के लिए. Is that potentially what we're seeing at play?
Well, certainly this election for Prashant Kishor is not for winning. But, the fact that he's contesting almost all the seats -4, because, 3 of his candidates, as he said, went away to the BJP. Therefore, his percentage vote is going to be a baseline of 10-12%. Let me give you one more example. In 2020, when Chirag Paswan contested 135 seats, he got 6%. Now, of course, Chirag Paswan gets Paswan vote, but Paswans are not distributed evenly across entire of, Bihar. Dalit votes might be, but not Paswan vote. So, therefore, I feel he'll certainly get a base vote of around 10%, nearby, 8 to 12%. Now, how many of that will convert into seats? That is the interesting question.
Shaking his head furiously in disagreement, saying 8 to 12. Dream on, he says, Ajit ji.
No, very quick comment. If he had been so sure about that kind of a base vote, he himself would have been contesting. He would have been leading the election from the front. He is not risking that. And in elections, unless you are seen as a risk taker, nobody is going to come along with you. Second point, Rahul, I think you are overstressing this thing about Nitish, his age, his vintageness, etc. I remember something which came up for discussion when Atalji was Prime Minister, and he very rudely snubbed a person saying, when in a school, the headmaster is not the most exciting person. The most exciting person is the PT teacher. But a PT teacher cannot run a school. A headmaster can run a school.
That's an important point.
So people judge someone by what he can give. And also Bihar is in many ways a very traditional state, a very traditional society. They are not people who will go in for a jhatka change.
Okay, that's an important point, because each time, and I have Manoj Kumar Bharti from the Jan Swaraj joining us. He's the president of the party joining us now. Mr. Bharti, each time I interviewed Prashant Kishor over the years, he would say that the leader needs to contest. It's the advice he's given everyone. He said that the Congress lost the plot in 2017 because in Uttar Pradesh, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra refused to contest. He was pushing for her to contest. He says, ye bahut badi galti hai. The leader has to contest. Kejriwal contested against Sheila Dikshit and won. This is advice as a strategist he's given to every neta he's consulted. Why, as a neta, do what as a strategist you said you shouldn't? Why run away from actually contesting? That's the question.
Thank you, Rahul, for having me on this show. Let me first start with a comment that look at the misfortune of Bihar. that one of the best known politicians, Ravi Prasad, he does not want to mention the basic problem that Bihar is ailing from, and that is the flight of labor, the flight of funds, and the flight of intellect. Now the issue also is he has completely neglected the point that since 2005, forget about period before, since 2005, for the last 20 years, Bihar has been at the bottom of per capita income. If you see all the states in India, Bihar has consistently been at the bottom of the whole thing. Whatever has been done by the NDA government, Nitish Kumar government, or Modi Shah-led coalition government, Bihar has not gone even one step above.
But as a skilled spokesperson,
bottom.
you dodged the question I asked and chosen to answer something very different. I asked you, sir, that as a political strategist, every single leader he consulted with, Prashant Kishor suggested to them, fight, never run away from the battlefield. Why then, as a Neta, is he not doing what he told each of his clients to do?
He announced also that he will contest.
Yeah, basically, I was trying to explain that only to you, because Jan Swaraj party was based on a certain different parameter, certain different principles, and based on that principle, it is not important for one person, Jan Swaraj, to one person like PK to stand from a seat. It's important to get a team of capable and intelligent people, a team of people who are honest and who will change the system in Bihar. That is what PK is fighting for. That is what Jan Swaraj wants to build. That is why whether PK is fighting or does not fight does not make a difference on the morale of the party, on the perception of people of the party, or the prospect of the party in the elections. Okay. And I am sure this is not going to make an...
I am going by what he made, announcement. He said, I will contest.
As far as ideology is concerned, the ideology with which Jan Swaraj is standing...
That was his announcement. He Ajapar, 150 सीटों की बात करें. That's what I am saying. Because Prashant Kishor Pandey, because Pandey is a name which was trying to hide for so many years. Because that's why he knows the importance of Pandey in Bihar election stage. But Rahul, I am coming to a different proposition, because we are going from here to here. We are talking about different things, caste, women, Nitish Kumar. Let me bring down to one issue which is started. That women are responsible for the election of NDA in Bihar. Correct. I am sorry to say, what was the percentage of women voters in 2015? Highest, 16%, 60%. And who won? Who won?
2015. But that time Nitish was with
RJD. Yeah. So Nitish, either they are with Nitish or Modi.
Correct.
So let us first decide that who are women. Women 60%. Last 8 came down by 1%. So when you are talking that women are responsible for voting NDA, that perhaps may not hold ground. Because 60% people voted because they voted for him at that point in time, because there was a Sharab Bandi introduced before that. That must be one of the reasons there. So I'm coming with everybody, like Mr. Gupta was discussing about pass one and whatever. Let us decide, people are voting for development or are they voting for caste?
Okay, let me put
let me complete one more sentence. Yes. Total difference between the absolute numbers of votes polled by both the alliances. NDA came to power just by 15,000 votes extra. Just 15,000. But that is the difference which is going to make. And JDU is coming down day by day in 43 seats. If JDU votes are not transferred, because it's a sinking party at the moment, there is a person who is tired leader they have got. If their votes are not transferred to BJP won about 20 seats because of the JDU support.
Okay, let me put that
Rahul, a very quick,
yes.
Just a quick point. You know, we are constantly hearing this expression, the future of Bihar politics. I think it's time we spoke about the future of Bihar and not put politics above Bihar.
Sure.
That is
Jaimur, this point that was raised about whether people will vote more along caste or will they vote more around, say, gender or their age profile. You know, young versus the others, women versus men. What do you think is most likely to determine the final outcome on the 14th?
Well, if we go by our past experience, what we've seen in Maharashtra, where actually the women dole scheme was lesser in magnitude, but the spread was very large. And in Maharashtra, just 5 months before the assembly elections, in the Lok Sabha elections, the vote share gap was 0.5% between the NDA and the UPA, but the NDA almost suffered a rout. In the assembly polls, a huge 10% gap got created, which is largely attributed to the women's schemes. So I, even going through all the data, or, various interviews of Pradeep ji, Yashwant, my guru, my friend, we are seeing all those interviews. I think one thing is clear, the NDA just does enjoy an edge amongst women. Given the Maharashtra experience, I would not be surprised, and I would just like to re-emphasize the point that Yashwant made, that the women, the gender factor might cut across the caste factor. I mean, I would want to put that, stick my neck out for it, that I am expecting that the gender factor will cut across the caste factor.
Okay, so if gender triumphs caste, then potentially we could be heading towards a one-way victory. That's the point that Yashwant Deshmukh was making. Then it becomes very clear, if gender, which leans towards Nitish and Modi, more towards Nitish in Bihar at the state assembly election level, more towards Prime Minister Modi in the Lok Sabha level, then it could be one-way traffic. Unless, of course, there's an underlying youth outburst which comes out, only then does the election, Yashwant Deshmukh, become more exciting.
Absolutely. And one statistical anomaly which I want to point out, Pradeep said that for 55-45 is what actual turnout factor turns in. It doesn't happen that way. Because, in Bihar's electorate roll, just like in Delhi, it is 53 male and 47 female. So even if female turnout surpasses male, the actual, the voter base becomes only 50-50. So what I'm simply trying to say, what Jay just mentioned, that if the female cuts across the caste line and the turnout goes up, arguably for JDU, Rahul, the last election was the worst of the lot. Right, the worst of the lot. And even after, in your analysis, you have pointed out that the seats with the BJP, with the JDU won last time, 2/3 of those seats were where the female turnout was more than the male turnout. Right. When Chirag Paswan was damaging JDU left, right, and center. So in the worst of the time, what JDU got, it was because of the female voter. Now, at this point of time that we are talking, if the female bias for JDU and Nitish Kumar is at all-time high, that is what the data is suggesting for the tracker, number one. Number two, he is not facing the problem of what we were looking 5 years back of Hanumanji putting the Lanka ki aag to Ayodhya, Chirag Paswan. Now he is only looking at the Prashant Kishor factor, and I believe we have to read between the lines when Prashant Kishor said few things. Apart from the fact that he is contesting a brave fight, I give due credit to him for that. But I remember, I think you asked him that if you have to pick up between Nitish Kumar and Tejaswi Yadav, and he said any given day Nitish Kumar. Any given day Nitish Kumar, that's what Prashant Kishor said. I genuinely believe that those kind of messaging will go down wherever people might feel that because of Prashant Kishor or any third party, if their vote is getting wasted, because please remember, Bihar politics is not for I voting for somebody to win. It's always for so far I voting for somebody to lose the election.
This election
that
is also
fear
about
factor
the future
will kick in
of Bihar and the future of Bihar politics. I want to spend some time on that because the fact of the matter is that you've got the Nitish Lalu duo running Bihar for the last 3 decades in one form or shape or the other. Now you've got multiple contenders. You've got the likes of Tejaswi Yadav of the RJD, you've got Chirag Paswan from the LJP, you've got Prashant Kishor who wants to emerge as a contender, and you've got multiple contenders. Tarkishore Prasad is one, Renu Devi, they've been deputy chief ministers in the past. You've got Samrat Chaudhary at the moment, you've got Vijay Sinha at the moment. These are the deputy chief ministers at the moment. They've tried to in the past. Not one of them has emerged as a pan-state leader, But when I asked the Home Minister this question, he said, हमारे पास बहुत है, नेता को मौका दो तब बनता है, उससे पहले नहीं बनता. But this Amitabh Tiwari is also a battle for the future. This election is an interlude between the Lalu Nitish era and the future of Bihar. This is what lies between them.
Yeah, essentially this is going to set the direction and tone of which are the future leaders who are going to lead Bihar over the next 25-30 years. Now clearly this could be the last election of Nitish Kumar. You have a leadership vacuum at BJP because you do not have a clear leader in BJP. They had 2 deputy chief ministers in 2020 which they changed and installed fresh new faces in 2024 when Nitish Kumar made a Ghar Wapsi. So in the Lalu Yadav family, I think Tejaswi is clearly the political heir to Lalu Yadav. And he is 35 years of age, so clearly he has 30 to 35 years of politics left. Chirag Paswan from LJP is also young at 42, so he could also become a key player in the future. And if Prashant Kishor stays back in Bihar, assuming he doesn't win, then I think the space of JDU, because Bihar always has had 3 players in its political landscape, JDU, RJD and BJP. So if JDU for any reason, because we've seen that in regional parties family control matters, so parties like Biju Janata Dal or a JDU or even an AIADMK where there is no clear family succession plan, then there is a space for JSP as well, and he is also potentially young at I think 46 or 48. So these 3 leaders could shape the politics of Bihar, and of course whoever comes from BJP, because we'll have to see whether these 2 faces.
The state still has problems about unemployment, migration, etc. And yet there is no overarching anti-incumbency. In fact, there's a sympathy and there's an element of feeling कि नहीं किया, he's held the state together in a way.
You can say that because the kind of things you're talking about, Nitish Kumar is sometimes where the factor against him doesn't work. Anti-incumbency doesn't. Let me speak for a couple of minutes what I want to say. He has been there in power for 20 years now. He is the world record holder in changing parties and becoming 9-time chief minister. And I'm telling you in terms of what he has delivered to the state. That's the one thing which everybody is hiding. If you look at the data, which is Niti Aayog data, per capita income of Bihar is the lowest among the 28 states. It's 660,000 against 2 lakh. Index of doing good business, it is on the bottom of that. I'm talking about what Mr. Modi talks about. In terms of health parameters, it is 19 of the 20 last states. So where is it done? What has it done for the state? In terms of poverty, people are even 20% of the youth employment in urban sector is missing. Highest in the country. So in terms of what you say, it is an image, it is a perception versus performance. He can't speak properly, that's he's tired. Anti-incumbency is already there. There is no alternative leader to him. Under his leadership, the party is going down from one election to another election. Still people say that he keeps the party united. There is no second leader in the party. What has he done to the party? If there was no BJP, he would have sung by now. It's the BJP which is carrying their burden with it.
But Ajit, this is quite remarkable that there should actually be a tsunami of anti-incumbency after the whole period that they've been in power by conventional political logic. Nitish has never been a conventional politician, which is why despite everything that Prabhuji mentions, you don't see that you saw it in 2020 still because of COVID, migrants coming back, there was that anger. Now there is no visibly palpable anger.
See, Rahul, I feel that there is a palpable anger among the youth.
Sure.
And, Bihar's median age being 22, Bihar's half the population under 35. So therefore, there is a palpable anger. But what is happening? The palpable anger is getting divided between 2 youthful leaders, Tejaswi and Prashant Kishor. As a result, and the entire women on one side towards Nitish, therefore it neutralizes the palpable anger. But it's not that anger is not there.
Let me put that same question to Manoj Jha. Manoj Jha is a close confidant of Tejaswi Yadav, of the RJD, is a member of parliament in the Rajya Sabha. He's joining us now on this broadcast. Manoj ji, welcome. In 2020, there was visible anger because of COVID, people coming back. Tejaswi came very close to winning, but ultimately he lost. Now, there are concerns around Nitish ji's health. but the level of anti-incumbency which was visible, the sense I got after spending a few days in the state is that it's not the same. You know, the level of anti-incumbency on the surface is not very high. There's some disappointment with everything that's happened, but the visible anger or anti-incumbency of 2020 seems to be missing in 2025. Manoj.
Rahulji, let me first state, and very clearly so, that 2020 and 2025 are not just two different mathematical years. These are two different elections with two different narratives. Lots of things have changed after 2020. For a short span of time, Tejaswi ji got a chance to be part of the government. And I tell you, two important decisions were taken. One was on the job front, because I was privy to that attempt when Nitish ji's party approached Tejaswi ji that we should work together because BJP is trying to decimate our party. Tejaswi ji was reluctant, but he agreed when he asked for it and he was given free hand in terms of making jobs cumulative and compiling it across different departments and agreeing for a caste-based survey. After that, a sense after many years in Bihar came that elections could be fought on something which is fundamental to every young people. That's the idea of job. This election, apart from jobs, social security, lots of other issues are important. But you know, anti-incumbency or pro-incumbency or silence of the voter, does that speak? We shall only know on 14th of November. As of now, what we know very clearly, that at a very subterranean level, Bihar does not want to be treated like simply a voting instrument or a voting state. What we call in Hindi, कि पूंजी का निवेश गुजरात में और श्रमिकों का प्रवेश बिहार से. I mean, this kind of disparity, which sounds colonial, which appears neo-colonial, I think somewhere down the line, even amongst BJP supporters, they want this entire trend to be reversed. If voters are doing it silently, without making much of noise, I can only salute their wisdom. This is what I feel.
You know, the one point that's been made again and again is about the spectre of Jungle Raj. You know, I interviewed the Home Minister, he said Jungle Raj laut aayega. In their stump speeches, the Prime Minister, everyone raises the concern about Jungle Raj coming back to Bihar. Now, you've actually removed or made very small the poster of Lalu Yadav, Tejaswi's father, from the election campaign posters in the state of Bihar. This concern, especially in the minds of older people, that the return of the RJD would potentially signal the return of Jungle Raj, that seems to be pushing back your chances, Manoj.
Rahul ji, I tell you, when they repeat Jungle Raj, let me first assert it very prominently that Mr. Prime Minister and Mr. Home Minister, probably they have nothing to show on their report card. That's blank, a big zero, a huge zero. Having said that, let me, for your audience, historically speak, when this term came into prominence, there was this Patna High Court ruling about Patna Municipal Corporation in the 1990s, late 1990s, that the municipal corporation had some kind of folly. I mean, they were at fault, and the Jungle Raj comment was made in that context. However, I have always believed, my party does not believe in the idea of neoliberal brand making or hiring somebody from the media or planting stories. We don't do that. And I tell you, this entire bogey of Jungle Raj, it has become bogus. The day Mr. Prime Minister was speaking about it, 2 days back, the same day Dulal Chand Yadav was murdered, a day before, a sub-inspector was murdered in Siwan. Under the watch of this Home Minister, we have seen bleeding Manipur. So when they speak about Jungle Raj, people, even their people, they wish to caution them that we are there for 20 years.
Okay.
We should be telling what we
One
have
of the big ideas of the RJD in this campaign, Manoj, is the promise of one job per household, one government job per household in the state. Now, some estimates suggest that would cost up to 12 lakh crore rupees. The state's annual budget is about 3 lakh crore rupees. So that's 4x the annual state budget. That just mathematically seems like very, very difficult to deliver on because you simply don't have that money. Is it not fair to make these kind of impossible promises just in the hope of luring young voters who are desperate for these jobs to come and vote for you? Most voters will be able to see through the fact that you don't have the money to meet this promise.
No. Let me tell you. First of all, Rahul ji, you have watched many elections. Tell me, before 2020, was employment or employment opportunity ever an agenda in Bihar politics? Never. So give credit to that gentleman called Tejasvi Yadav where it is due to him. It is because of him that employment is being talked about. Number one, what he essentially meant was the optimization of employment opportunity so that it impacts, it enters every household. Look at the words carefully. And when you look at the budget, I think as far as I understand, for my limited understanding of teaching in Delhi University, I find that the budgetary provisions are re-envisioned. Alternative sources of revenues can be redrawn or reinvented. Number three, what is very important in this entire scheme of things, we must realize that there are certain sectors from where government with the new liberal economics has suddenly disappeared. If we make a partial appearance of government by allowing both the sectors, private and public, to coexist, I think in a span of 5 years, it shall be possible to live up to the 80% idea of what he has committed.
It will take 5 years to do it. That's the question I'm going to ask our guests in the studio, whether it's possible, or is it just going to be that case of dur ke dhol suhavan lage? The glass always looks greener on the other side. People believe it is possible, but where is the money going to come from? Where are the jobs going to come from? We'll talk about it when we come back on the other side of a quick break. Stay with us. You're watching NDTV Battleground. The critical question, of course, in phase one, what will happen on the 6th? 121 seats up for grab. The Gadbandhan won 65 of them the last time. The NDA won 56. Amongst the parties, the RJD had 42, the BJP 32, JDU 23. So we're actually starting, Ajit Jha, from an area which traditionally has been a Gadbandhan RJD stronghold. The RJD has been the dominating force in these seats rather than the BJP or the JDU.
That's true. I mean, if you look at it is basically 121 seats are the areas where largely the RJD did better. It doesn't quite coincide with the first two phases, but this is in a way, the south of the Ganges area. And that's why this is where the Rajad is strong. And therefore, the kind of campaign you saw by the NDA with Pradhan Mantri's roadshow in Patna, several of his lectures, that was extraordinary, the campaign by the NDA, compared to, let's say, the campaign that the Rajad should have put, the Congress should have put. They kind of backed off at this, slogovers. They did not quite campaign in the way which they did when the election was not announced during the voter adhikar.
You buy that, Prabhuji? The fact that there's a lot of vote adhikar yatra hype, but just during the period, because there's Diwali, Baidu, Chhat, long holiday season, the campaign never really took off.
Rahul, we all also believe that people don't make up their mind till the last moment. I don't agree with that. In a Bihar state where the caste combination plays most an important role, people have already decided whom to wait for. One question you must remember, that RJD has nothing to lose because they are not in power. Their vote, they don't have to protect. Their votes they're protected already. Whose votes have to be protected is the JDU and the BJP.
You think they should have fought harder, Kanchan Gupta?
They have to protect their votes.
They had to win. They didn't. They've tried, but did they go
15,000
all out?
votes. Yeah, the margin of 15,000
worked harder than the MGB.
No, well, that itself tells its own story. And, the campaign begins with Rahul Gandhi and Tejasvi showing up as two peas in a pod, in a single pod. And that is also the point where the campaign trails off. After that, Tejasvi takes off on his own and Rahul Gandhi does a no-show. worse, this whole emphasis on vote chori, vote adhikar, people were not interested in it.
Okay.
Otherwise, do you think Tejasvi would not have picked up that line? He didn't. He just ignored it.
It didn't connect with his voters, he felt. This has been a fascinating hour of broadcast. We were able to put together different perspectives, psephological insights, X factors. This is where we're just kickstarting our coverage of the Bihar elections. I want to thank Prabhu Chawla, Ajit Jha, Kanchan Gupta and all our guests who've joined us over the last 2 hours to try and make sense of how Bihar is likely to vote. The NDTV team is on the ground. This is the OG of election coverage. So do stay tuned between now and the 14th of November as our reporters, our editors, our experts cover this election as no other channel will. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye and good night.